Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the virtual chapter for oh my God, Karen, it's March already, isn't it? For March,
Yes.
March 2024. I'm getting used to the idea, and we're happy to see you. We're here tonight. In a little bit, we're going to introduce our guest, Jim Kellner. We got a couple things to do before that, and we are excited to see you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and for the moment, I'm going to just turn my attention to my friend Karen, who will say good evening to you and start some announcements.
Good evening to you. And the announcements, you get CEUs for joining us here. And to collect your CEUs, all you have to do is let IACT, IMDHA know that you were here. By the way, IHF, ICBCH, any number of organizations and all friendly organizations will give you CEUs for joining us here. So just apply for them and get your time.
And LMNO NLP as well will give you we'll give you points for that too. So yeah, so do that. We will post the recording for this program tomorrow by noon. It's kind of weird that I'm actually saying for the benefit of the people watching the recording when it is and where it is that they will be able to have found me. But we will be posting the recording. The virtual chapter has a help me out Facebook group,
Yes.
and it will be posted there. It will be posted on the virtual chapters YouTube channel, and it will be posted on the IACT IMDHA website in the Mind Matters forum. So,
Yeah. Now, Michael, please make the announcement about our upcoming conference in May.
well, we have got this upcoming conference, and guess when it is? In
It's, I
it's in
know
May,
exactly. Hold
and it is the 17th to the 19th.
on. Okay.
And of course, there are pre and post conference programs the days immediately before and after that. It is here in Orlando. The weather, by the way, just so you know, wherever you are in the world, it was 89 degrees in Orlando today, and how lovely. So Florida's getting ready for you. Things are blossoming and blooming and growing, and so plan for it now, uh, because you never know. Uh, as Karen was telling me earlier this evening, but so there's that. I also have an NLP, if you don't mind, I'd like to mention. I've got an NLP practitioner program coming up. In fact, Dennis here on board. Hi, Dennis is coming to Orlando for part of that. There's one evening online, but only there's actually 3 evenings online, but Wednesday evening is kind of in between the live modules. But there are a couple of live modules. One is the first weekend in April, so the weekend after Easter, and the next one is oh my God, I believe it's the first weekend in June. First or second weekend in June. But my website, phoenix-services.org, is a place where you can find out about all that stuff. The program is live, and it's going to be a small group. We're talking about like 8 people or something, close up and and hands in, which is just something I love to do since COVID has kept us all in this two-dimensional frame with reference to one another. Dennis will be glad to know, since he's coming to my live class, that the advantage of having a live class with physical bodies in the room is if the students are like screwing up, you can, shake them and stuff. And you can't do that on Zoom. So that's why I'm so looking forward to it. May you screw up on many occasions, Dennis, over the course of the 8 days we get together. So
And I'm
there's
guessing a dead class would be held at the morgue and not at your office.
that's right, that's right. And they're sort of,
So it's good to have a live class
but they don't ask too many questions
that you know of. By
that I know
the
of.
way, tell your friends about the meetings. By the way, we just discovered right as we were talking ahead of time that some people think this might be a closed meeting. It is not. You can invite anybody for the live or share this with anybody you'd like to, because it's always great information. Even the muggles enjoy it.
Oh, and one more thing, tomorrow evening at this same Zoom login, so you don't even need to find a new login, will be the final evening of the presenter series. And in the presenter series, what we do is we interview folks who are doing pre or post conference programs at the conference. So we have two left to do. They will be on tomorrow evening's show, and it will be Patty Scott and Eric Rosen talking about medical hypnosis and their medical hypnosis course, and
Bruce Eimer.
Bruce Eimer there. Thank you. I don't know why I was just had a gray cell issue. So yeah, so Bruce Eimer, who
He'll be
is
talking about hypnosis prior to surgery, I think.
yeah, prior to surgery, and he's also doing another program, by the way, at the conference for hypnosis for pain management. So, and we talked about that with him last time. So that's what we got. And now, in honor of it's appropriate, isn't it? To but I've got a clue for y'all. It has nothing to do with Kermit the Frog, and yet it's green. Is that enough? There you go.
Maybe enough. I don't know. I wanted to talk to you tonight because I don't know what March means to you, but it always means St. Patrick's Day to me. And so I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the luck of the Irish. The luck of the Irish. I feel lucky enough to be 1/4 Irish. One of my father's ancestors had Irish blood. So I'm lucky enough to be 1/4 Irish, which I think is wonderful. And I've always thought that part of my luck comes from being Irish. So I really wanted to talk about luck tonight. And I went to the Google Goddess to find out what I could find. And what I found out is, the luck of the Irish was a pejorative term to begin with. It really came not from Ireland at all. That term, the luck of the Irish, came from the gold rush.
Mhm.
It just so happened that many of the people who were panning for gold and doing all of that were of Irish ancestry. And so as they were getting wealthy, the people who weren't getting so wealthy said, well, that's the luck of the Irish, meaning, well, they have to be lucky because they certainly don't have the brains to find the gold. You know what? We've turned that around since then, have we not? And now, of course, the luck of the Irish has a little bit of a better connotation, I think. Then again, luck itself can have a bad connotation. I mean, if you're lucky, you didn't do anything to get whatever it is you've got, right? And so nobody wants to be lucky. They want to be smart or something else, right? I have to call BS. And this time I don't mean belief system. This time I mean bullshit. Because I think luck is a very important thing for us to have. Oh, I don't know what just happened. I did a thumbs up or something and set off some kind of magical background on Zoom that Zoom has all these little apps now that will jump in and do all sorts of things. I think luck is something that I have had to, over the course of my life, come to accept and appreciate. There was a point when I thought, oh, if I'm lucky, then I didn't really deserve that, or I got that without doing anything to deserve it. And I really don't think that's true anymore. I got a question for you. Dennis, because I can see you, if you don't mind unmuting yourself for a moment. When you make a mistake, Dennis, how long do you beat yourself up or say something negative about yourself over that mistake? Is it one time? Is it 5 times? Is it all day long? How long do you say something negative about any mistake that you might make?
On the degree of the mistake.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
So I guess it depends on how serious is a mistake. If I had run down a pedestrian in the crosswalk, I'd be pretty upset about myself.
Okay, let's make it something tiny, a little bit smaller than that. Let's not encourage, wiping out pedestrians in the crosswalk. Let's say it's something smaller than that. Let's say you mess up somebody's name.
What about, okay, well, that happens all the time. What
Okay.
about losing $50 on the craps table in Vegas?
How long would you berate yourself for that?
Uh, I would say I would just kind of like a New Year's resolution. I'd say next time $10 max.
Okay, you make a change about it.
Yeah.
If you find $50 on the ground, how long would you celebrate that?
Um, after I looked for the owner
Okay. Yes.
and I knew that I couldn't find the owner and I just had it, I'd say that was I guess I would call that lucky.
And how long would you celebrate that luck?
Not very long.
Isn't it interesting? We got to the exact answer I expected you to give, Dennis. And that was, I will think about something that I've done negatively longer than I will celebrate good fortune. Does that make sense? And you know what, Dennis? I think that's very normal. Thank you for sharing that with me, because I guess a majority of my clients come to see me because they are doing their own self-hypnosis. In other words, telling themselves negative things about themselves. That is self-hypnosis.
Thank you for that affirmation.
And when I ask my clients
Yes.
how long, like if they'll say, okay, like I messed up in a parking space. I parked across the line. How long would you berate yourself? Well, I would say it 10 times that I'm so stupid. I'm not any good. I'm not any great. I'm not. And I said, okay, that's a pretty minor infraction. Would you agree with that? That's not hitting somebody in a crosswalk. That's a minor infraction. And then I ask, okay, now if you find a penny on the floor or in the ground, what do you do? Pick it up and put it in my pocket, or walk on past, or don't do anything with it? Isn't it interesting that that indicates an imbalance in the way we're living our lives? If I find a penny on the ground, when I didn't have hips, y'all remember when I couldn't walk, right? And I didn't have hips and I couldn't bend over. If there was a penny on the ground, I found a way to get down there and get that penny. Now, I know some people with the superstition that if the penny is heads up, you leave it. That's bad luck. If the penny is heads up, you pick it up. If it's tails up, you leave it.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Well, cancel it out, because is that a silly superstition if you stop and think about it? How can the penny be worth any more or any less, whether it's heads up or tails up? Right? It's the same amount of money. And if I bend over and pick up a penny, I celebrate it. Woohoo! My luck is going well today, and I'm a penny richer. And if I can balance out my day by celebrating my good fortune with the same intensity as I look at the negatives of something, there is a better balance in my life. If I can do that consciously, if I can do that really consciously with intent to make sure I am pivoting to better feeling thoughts, my day goes better. My life goes better. I finally learned that, yeah, maybe some of the stuff I have in my life is because I'm lucky, and that's okay. Keep the luck coming. I want the universe to see that I'm happy with the luck it's giving me, and keep the luck coming. I don't know if that sounds like law of attraction or that sounds like some woo-woo stuff, but there we go. Now we know I've got some woo-woo in me too. And Carrie's going to love that, because, I can do the woo-woo too. I think we need to celebrate our good fortune as much as we berate ourselves. So when I talk to my clients about that, I'll get a number from them. How many times would you say something negative about that particular action you're talking about? Or how long would that bother you? And they'll usually give me a number, 10 or an hour. And then we go for a deal. So now the next time that something goes right in your life, when you do something right, will you promise to spend the same amount of time patting yourself on the back for that? We're all little kids. We are all little kids. I don't care how old you are, and I'm old, but I'm still 6 on the inside. My little 6-year-old comes out all the time. I unleash her on the world because she's a lot of fun. And my little 6-year-old wants nothing more than my praise. Oh, we can all the regression in the world to find out who inflicted that on me when I was 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was, but it doesn't really matter at this point. The only person that little inner 6-year-old needs approval from now is me. And the more I can give her my approval, the more I can pat her on the back, the more I can acknowledge her for what she does right, the better life goes for me. So I started thinking about this luck thing. You know, shamrock, that's a lucky thing, is it not, for the Irish? What do you know about the shamrock? Anybody know why the shamrock is an important symbol?
Rare.
It's the 4-leaf clover is rare. Notice the shamrock is only 3 leaves.
Oh, okay.
It's the Trinity, right?
It is the Trinity, Michael. That's exactly right. That's when it, let me see. I wrote this down because I wanted to remember it. The patron saint of Ireland, well, St. Patrick. How did I forget that? St. Patrick used it to show the 3-leaf clover to show the Holy Trinity, and it shows faith, love, and hope. Faith, love, and hope are the 3 areas. Now, the clover in pre-Christian times, the Druids said that they could thwart evil spirits and all kinds of danger by carrying a shamrock. The 3-leaf shamrock would enable them to see evil spirits and escape in time. By the way, if you had a 4-leaf clover, not only could you see them and escape, you could wipe out the evil spirits. So that 4th leaf got its own designation as well. But that's what the 3-leaf clover is all about. And why not ward off evil spirits, right? In case there is such a thing. And green is sort of the color of Ireland because of the greenery. We think of Ireland as green, but the actual national color of Ireland is azure blue. Who knew? Yet their flag is green, white, and orange. Anybody know why? Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I don't know all 3 of them, but I mean, I associate the orange and the green with Catholic and Protestant Ireland.
And that is exactly right. One designated Catholic and one designated Protestant, and the white in the center is the peace they're hoping for. Is the peace where the 2 can come together. That's what the flag represents. There are some people who say you shouldn't have the superstition that you shouldn't wear orange on St. Patrick's Day because that shows you're aligned with England. I don't have that particular superstition. I have lots, but that's not one of them. The wearing of the green. Does everybody wear green on St. Patrick's Day? Dennis says no. In grade school and elementary school, Dennis, you didn't wear green on St. Patrick's Day?
I think that I wore orange.
And then hopefully you got pinched.
I don't remember that.
Well, I clearly remember as a little kid, because, you know, I'm still a little kid. So as a little kid, I remember in elementary school, if you didn't wear green on St. Patrick's Day, you got pinched.
Oh.
So people going around looking for who they could pinch legally, because that was the day you could legally pinch another kid, right? If they weren't wearing green. The reason that caught on is because there is an old superstition that leprechauns can't see green. And if they see you, they will pinch you. So you wear green to avoid the leprechauns. That is the... Oh, did I finally amaze you, Michael Watson?
I'll hang by my heels and kiss the Blarney Stone.
They're all kind of weird superstitions, are they not? There are 7 really weird Irish superstitions I found online. When a bird poops on you, it's good luck.
To the bird.
Tim, I thought the same thing. So I was in Key West for New Year's, And my husband and I were talking about, all the wonderful things and how the new year was going to go, etc. And on New Year's Day, we were walking up Duval Street, right in front of one of the restaurants there. And all of a sudden, kerplat, bird poop right on my chest. And I'm thinking, oh man, what a way to start the year. I'm just minding my own business and I get shit on by a bird. Now I know that that's why my year has been so great. I got bird pooped, and it was the meaning of good luck. I will now start hanging out under trees, maybe more often. Accidentally putting your shirt on inside out is good luck, according to some superstition. Giving something sharp to a friend can cut your friendship, is an Irish superstition. So don't give your friend a knife or anything sharp. Another Irish superstition, if the palm of your left hand is itchy, money is coming to you or leaving you. Either way. Now, Michael nodded on the coming to you, and Carrie, I saw you nod on the leaving you. Open your mic and tell me about that. You've heard about the leaving you part, yes?
Well, I've heard of both. My grandmother instilled that in me, that left is it's coming to you and right is you're going to be sending it back away. So, and it terrified me at first. And
wait a minute.
Thought, well, it's just, go ahead.
Your superstition is two hands. Your superstition is it comes to you on the left and it leaves you on the right. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So we can all add all of these superstitions to our lives now, right? You can think about that every time. What superstitions do you carry around with you? I'm curious about that. We talked about the penny, tails up is bad luck, heads up is good luck. I canceled that one out. Walking under a ladder, stepping on a crack, right? Breaking a mirror. What superstitions do you have running around in your head that you still play with or think about?
Black cats.
Black cats.
Salt over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Every time you spill it, right? And notice it has to be over the left shoulder.
It's the devil in the eye.
Is that why that happened?
Yeah.
Is that why that happens? Jim, do you have any?
Is that discriminating against left-handers?
It's discriminating against devils.
Jim, what were you going to say?
No, I don't really have any superstitions. No.
Isn't that interesting to walk around without any superstitions? So if I were to sneeze, what would you say to me?
You got me. Bless you.
You'd say,
It's an automatic thing to the superstition is it'll wish you good luck or something like that. It becomes a habit, but isn't that what superstitions are? Aren't they things that we have habitualized in our life and we live by them? We might think they're silly, but I'm not going to walk under a ladder on purpose.
Yeah, I miss good advice. It's reasonable, I think.
Right.
Don't walk under something that could fall on you.
It could fall on you. So maybe there's some really good reasons for those superstitions. And maybe there's some really good reasons for why we come up with the things that we come up with. And really, it's all in the interest of good fun, is it not? Getting back to this idea of luck. What I really try to instill in my clients and would like to share with you today is please pay as much attention to your good luck as you do to your misfortune. Humans are hardwired to look for the negatives. We're hardwired to protect ourselves from woolly mammoths. I don't have those in my hood. We have deer, we have all sorts of other wildlife, but we don't have woolly mammoths. So, we are hardwired, yes, to protect ourselves. You will protect yourself as you should. But let's also balance the scales a little bit for our own psyche and also pay some attention to our good fortune. Celebrate that just as much as we celebrate the negatives. And I think it will lead to a happier, luckier life. After all, you get what you focus on. why not focus on what you want? Why not focus on what you want? That's my spiel on luck tonight. Who's feeling lucky?
Well, I'm
All
feeling
the time.
lucky having Karen Hand here as an associate to do these lovely things for us. And you really have you really been carrying the ball for me a whole lot lately too, Karen. And I just so appreciate you so much. And I just wanted to tell you, and I'm a little disappointed to have to do this because although your presentation was marvelous, there is a woolly mammoth that lives down at the end of my block. And I don't know what to tell you, but there really is.
Honey, it's your imagination. You can do anything you want to with it.
And I just want to add, only because it was such a lovely thing, we shared the luck of the Irish and the source of the phrase. Just because it matches this, if you're collecting that kind of data, Chinaman's chance is the same way. We've heard this expression, they don't have a Chinaman's chance, or they don't have a Chinaman's chance in hell. Clearly a racist expression, by the way, as well, I might point out. But it actually has to do with the position that they were placed on railroad construction crews when they were blasting out mountains. And they were in a region of the construction project where they were more likely to be hit and injured by falling debris. Chinese workers in the 19th century.
Neural pathways are so weird. Something comes up and it connects to something else. I don't know why that connected me to Blazing Saddles, but instantly I'm thinking of singing a campaign song. And well, no, you've got Chinaman on the railroad track. And so it took me right back to Blazing
Well, now
Saddles.
I've got cowboys eating beans.
Well, let's all sit around the campfire, and I'm going to get rid of the background here and go back to normal now that the feature is over. By the way, before you do that, you recognize that this is just a suggestion, right? Everything can be a suggestion. So this is going to look differently to you or to a client or to whatever than, say, this. Think about that. Especially if you're working on Zoom, think about what they're going to see behind you, because all of that is also suggestion making. That's right. We get to see different rooms of Michael's house almost every month, and it's just amazing the mansion that he lives in. So it's very, very, very impressive. Well, I think that we have talked enough about luck. We are in very good luck tonight because we have the amazing Jim Kellner with us tonight. Jim is a hypnotherapist and stage hypnotherapist. He travels frequently across the US and internationally. He performs comedy hypnosis shows. He delivers powerful presentations, and he teaches. He's a keynote speaker, a podcaster, and author. He runs the Pacific Northwest Conference. Thank you. He's also, the co-founder and organizer. Man, I threw that in, Jim, before I even read it here on the page. He's organizer of the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference in Tacoma, Washington, and the Performing Hypnosis Summit, Las Vegas, Nevada, and online. So Jim is going to treat us to something I think really, really important tonight. Analyze this, and we go even further to what happens if something doesn't work just right. And I think I'm teasing a little bit more than maybe I should, because Jim's going to talk about progressive muscle relaxation and some things like that. The first thing I want to know from you, Jim, is I know that you're funny. I know that you're a great presenter. I know that you do wonderful things. You travel a lot. You really do things for this business. How did you get to this business?
Oh, Lord, Karen, you know what? It took me far too long to get here. I've been interested in hypnosis for as long as I can remember. I can remember back watching Tom Silver on like Ricky Lake, Montel Williams and that, and going, oh, that is the coolest thing in the world. But the analytical part of me was kind of like, yeah, but it's probably bullshit. Not a belief system. Bullshit. Yes. But it's funny, like I remember my first real experience with it, and I was always into weird stuff. So I'd be checking out books on, just all the weird stuff, astrology and meditation, back when meditation was something that only weird people did, or monks, right? Not like everybody now. And in that section, hypnosis was in that kind of the strange stuff section. And I got a book from the library when I was 17, and I remember trying to hypnotize my younger sister, reading this script in this book, having her stare at a candle. And then I promptly waited about 15, 20 years after that or about 10 years after that before I finally went for it and got my hypnosis certification. And then I promptly waited another, was it 10 years? About 10 years before I actually started practicing hypnotherapy. And I spent a couple years working at, you may have heard of this chain, it's defunct now, Positive Changes, which was a nationwide franchise.
Are you kidding me? That's
Nope.
where I got my start.
Wow. And you know what's
But we gotta go off someplace and talk another time.
Oh, definitely. When I see you at the next conference, we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you, when I first started there, I thought it was like the most amazing thing ever, until I discovered that it was really just a sales play. It was just a place to generate money for the company, at least the one I was at.
Except what I discovered there was all we did was read scripts to people. Patrick
right.
Porter scripts.
Patrick Porter scripts.
And we had about an 80% success rate.
You make such a good point, because everybody out there is against scripts, and we really, now when I was there, there was a period where they let us go off script, but then they tightened it back down again. And it was like,
that's when I divorced the company. That's when I divorced the company.
Yeah. And it was, so before that, it had been like a situation where you have to read it exactly. And really the scripts they just recorded Patrick doing a session, and then they transcribed it, and you could tell because the language was all messed. At first I was like, is this NLP they're using? And I'm like, no, it's just wonky,
It
because
was
it's what
NLP.
you do. Yeah, it's what you do. And when you're doing it live, I mean, you make mistakes and you backtrack and all kinds of stuff. But I'll tell you the great thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Karen, the great thing about it was I didn't have to do any marketing. I didn't have to write a blog, make videos. And I was able to sit there, and I literally worked with at least 30 clients a week, almost every single week. And so it's funny. So one of the books that I've written, the editor I had written, I worked with, I hypnotized thousands of people, and they're like, really, thousands? Because if you're like an actual hypnotherapist, you probably haven't hypnotized thousands. That you've been doing it for a very long time, because you don't have that many clients. But when you're working at Positive Changes, in a couple of years, you've already worked with 1,000 clients. And it was brutal. It was brutal. But man, I tell you what, you worked with so many different kinds of people.
It was great training. In retrospect, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of mediocre. It was marketing. It was all marketing, but it was great training for a new hypnotist, because if I learned a technique, I had a days full of clients that I could try that stuff out on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't change it for the world. It was really what I needed to start. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. Jim and I will get together for lunch on this.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
It was delightful to share that with y'all.
So that's how I got started. And then after I'd been doing it for about a year, I was already a stand-up comic in the past and an actor. So one of my buddies who owned a comedy club asked me if I wanted to do a comedy hypnosis show. And I took Richard Branson's advice, who says, if somebody gives you an opportunity, you don't know how to do it, you say yes and figure it out. So I said, yeah, we'll schedule for 6 months from now. By then I'll be ready. Of course, I wasn't ready, really. I was, but I wasn't. And that's how I started in the comedy side.
And so all of that is married together now. I mean, you get hired for public speaking or for keynote speaking, for comedy, for hypnosis. Are you seeing clients?
Far less than I have in the past. So I will say on average, I'll work with maybe a couple of clients a week now.
But you are still seeing clients. I mean, you do still have
I'm still seeing clients. Oh yeah. And the only reason I'm not seeing more is because, to be honest with you, I've jacked up my prices a lot, because I make far more money doing a keynote speech or a comedy hypnosis show. I mean, it just doesn't pay for me to one-on-one with somebody when I can make so much more doing that. And there's people have tried to convince me to give up the hypnotherapy, but I still really like that. I love it, man. You guys know what that's like when 6 months later, like, I'm smoke free, you get that text, or, I can't believe you've changed. Like, one of my favorites I got was from a client, an analytical client, by the way, and I'll talk more about this later, but she wrote me that, Jim, you're on the top 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. I mean, you don't get that from the other stuff that I do. So, I mean, I can't really give it up.
So what you're here to share with us, as I understand it, is I think probably flexibility, that when something goes wrong, you better be able to pull something out of thin air and keep going, right?
Well, that's ideal, you know, and you know, when we talk about the script thing, I think it's a fine thing to start with. So don't let people poo-poo you on that. And I think we all kind of have scripts in our minds anyway, whether it's stuff that we made up or stuff that we've heard. You know, I mean, I'll end up saying stuff that I've heard from Patrick Porter, even, you know, some of the phrases from his stuff. But
Loose, limp, and relaxed.
what's that?
Loose, limp, and relaxed. Go
Loose, limp, and relaxed. Right. Exactly. There's a couple of his that I really like. You know, a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. That was one of my favorite ones. Yeah, one of my favorites. You know, and I think what really got me started on this whole campaign about analytical stuff is I ran into a lot of. Here's the thing, and if you listen to like a YouTube video or an MP3, you're most likely going to hear progressive muscle relaxation induction. Also, when you're so many, unless they've been taught otherwise, hypnotherapists are using progressive muscle relaxation, just sort of as a default. And I don't remember being taught the difference, and maybe I wasn't, I just was, you know, snoozing that day. But different people require different ways of treatment and getting them into hypnosis. And I don't think that's really stressed enough, at least in my experience, because I run into a lot of hypnotists that I mentioned this, and they're like, what? I didn't know there was a difference. I did do something different.
One of the things, Jim, that really attracted me to this particular talk and this idea is because you said many people don't respond to progressive muscle relaxation, or worse, hate it.
Yeah.
I'm in that camp.
Oh, me too.
I am way too analytical.
Yes.
So as a matter of fact, here we talk about Michael is poetry. Michael does beautiful, and Michael could probably do a progressive muscle relaxation, and I would go with it because of his style. But typically, if there's a progressive muscle relaxation that started, and they start from the toes, you know, relax your toes, let that go up the ball of your foot into the arch and up to the heel. At about that point, I'm at my neck already.
Exactly. Right.
Let's go. Right? So then what does the hypnotist do?
Well, and also, and even aside from that, I'll go to another place and I'll say, if they're not doing that kind of a progressive muscle relaxation, it's sort of a walk on the beach type of an induction. And those irritate the hell out of me, because when you tell me to go for a walk on the beach, I'm like, well, what kind of sand is it? You know, is it that fine white sand? And you get the sand between your toes. I'm like, gross. I don't like the sand between my toes. And you might walk out in the water. I'm like, I don't go in the ocean. I don't like sharks. I'm not going even a foot. And I've got all this stuff going on. And so, and I find with a lot of analytical people, and not just analytical people, but people with ADHD also, so a lot of times, and some other situations where their mind is, you know, and it's you know what, you folks that are, if you know that anybody in here to know for sure, like, I'm a non-analytical, I don't analyze it at all. Can you, if you're out there, because you folks, here's what you don't realize is those people, I just start talking and they're like, huh. You know, you didn't say anything to them. Yeah. But the rest of us are going, oh my God, how long is this going to take? You know, and I'll tell you, so what I'll tell you is some of the clues, Karen, and I also want to let everybody know, this is only my opinion. I've not done any double-blind studies at all. So this is only my opinion and my experience. But what I hear from people are things like, if you hear things like this, like afterwards, they're like, you know, next time we do this, can we make it about 7 minutes long? I don't need all that relaxation stuff. I'm very relaxed. Like, no, you probably need more, actually, relaxation. Or they'll say, stop saying relax. I'm already relaxed. You know, things like this, or just don't do any of that stuff. Just get right to the stuff about quitting smoking or whatever. You know, you've got an analytical person and you probably want to take a different approach. Now, I think you can use, in fact, I'll tell you, somebody you may have all heard of, what's his name? Roy Hunter. You're familiar with him, right? He actually says that PMR is fine for analyticals. And I remember him saying it somewhere, but I haven't had a chance to talk with him about it because he's got a different take. But I think if you let them know what to expect ahead of time and say, look, you know what you need to do is you need to be able to set that part of yourself, that analytical self, maybe put that up on your shoulder, imagine that, or put it behind you and kind of just be open to what's being said. And maybe even, I'll share some of my strategies in a little bit, but the ways of not being focused on that kind of stuff, they'll have more success. So you can still use those. But there are better ways to do it, I think.
So don't let me stop you. Hit it. Do what you want to do, because I'm
Okay.
afraid you're waiting for me to ask you questions, and I don't need to
Oh.
ask you questions. I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm mesmerized. So just go for it.
Thanks. I'm gonna look at my notes real quick. So I want to tell, yeah, that's right. I want to tell a story. So I went to, and really the only reason I found out about this was one of my coworkers at Positive Changes had introduced me to the idea, and she actually had recommended a book, and it was by, and I don't remember the name of the book, but I was just looking up earlier, and it was by John Kappas, of HMI, founder of HMI, Hypnosis Motivation Institute. And I believe the name of it was Relationship Strategies E and P. And this book was really about what you'll notice, like, so oftentimes with analytical clients, and this is how you can spot analytical clients. So number one, they say those kinds of things. They'll oftentimes, when you ask a question, they're the ones that will give you like a 1-word answer, 2-word answer. Whereas like a non-analytical, and I'm speaking in generalities, of course, whereas an analytical will tell you their entire life story. You know, what'd you have for lunch today? Well, you know, back in 8th grade, I remember, stop, you know, they'll tell you way too much. You don't want to hear it. And sometimes I'm just like, why did I ask that question? They're going to talk forever now. The other thing is what they do for a living. You know, accountants, doctors, people like that are probably going to be analytical. We hope. One of the good things about analytical clients is, well, number one, mostly they won't come to you anyway because they think it's BS, hypnosis. So you don't have to worry about it that much. So the ones that do come to you, mostly I find have done the research and they're very science-minded, and they actually realize that there have been literally hundreds of thousands of examples of hypnosis being cited in literature. I mean, there's been thousands of studies done on it and have proved the effectiveness of it, and they're aware of it. I always find it funny. I was working with somebody one time and she goes, well, I'd feel a lot better about this if there was just some research to back up hypnosis. What? We can Google right now. There's 50,000 results, you know, actual some double-blind studies. And so with analyticals, they will also adhere to your instructions, maybe too much. If you say, hey, I'd like you to listen to this recording every day, they will listen to it every single day, no matter what. So they can be a joy to work with in that way. But again, they're less likely to come to us because they just think that anything, you know, like that's one of the problems is, and I'll be honest, one of the problems is, well, the 2 problems: stage hypnosis, because it looks too fantastical. And my explanation for that is, look, I can make somebody think they're Taylor Swift for an hour, but they're not going to think they're Taylor Swift tomorrow. You know, it wears off. I mean, this is a separate thing. You know, hypnosis is a tool, and we can use this tool for different things. You know, we use it in this way to do that, just like a fork. You know, I can scoop up some mashed potatoes or I can stab a piece of steak. You know, it's 2 sides of the same tool.
I just want to step in for a second.
Yeah.
with a different piece of BS, a different belief system.
Yeah.
Most of my clients are analytical.
I think we draw them to ourselves, don't we?
We do. We absolutely do. I draw perfectionists, people who want to, you know, end perfectionism or cut it back or something like that. They do tend to be very analytical.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, rather than they don't come to us, I find that most of my clients are kind of analytical. So you might just attract that.
You know, that's a great point. And I do think that we attract our tribe. You know, we attract those, and a lot of that's about our marketing and stuff, you know. I mean, if you're the person that's you know, you get I use this as a very good example because somebody actually mentioned this to me when it was an analytical client. If you're the one with the tie-dye t-shirt in your marketing, you'll probably attract more non-analytical people than you will otherwise. If you're talking about, you know, Wicca and astrology, that kind of stuff, you're probably not going to attract as many analyticals as somebody that's not doing that, just because that's all a bunch of stuff that's maybe not been peer reviewed and that kind of stuff. So they're not going to be as drawn to it. And they think, you know, again, they think it's all BS. And of course, I'm speaking in generalities again. And I remember speaking with a guy one time, and he had spoken to a couple of hypnotists. And when I told him my rate, he goes, "Wow, that's twice as much as the person I just talked to yesterday." And I go, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "But she wore a tie-dye t-shirt and had crystals everywhere." I was like, I mean, it's your choice, you know, and I'm sure this person was fine. They did great work, but that wasn't what he was looking for. That makes sense.
Good,
And feel free
good reason for one to put themselves out there. Put
Yeah,
yourself out there, whatever you do. If you do crystals and stuff, please
absolutely.
put that out there, because you
Yes,
will find your people too.
exactly. That's so true. And that's thing, you know, so I generally, when I meet with a client, I'll either wear a full suit or at least a button-up shirt and a jacket, because those are the folks that I'm looking for. Those are my people. I don't necessarily, I mean, I'll take the person, if I have a client that's into, you know, crystals and stuff like that, it's fine. In fact, I had a client, just recently, we're doing some medical hypnosis stuff with him. And he had talked to somebody who was going to do maybe a regression. And I said, "Hey, look, I can do a regression, but I would prefer you to go to that person, because I don't really do much past life regression. I'm not an expert in it. You know, I can do it, but it's not my calling. It's not my thing." So I think, yeah, you definitely, and that's how you find your tribe. And this is what I always tell my students is, don't be afraid to be yourself. Be yourself, because the more people that like you, the fewer people will love you. And this is true like in social media. You know, if you've got some haters, fantastic. Those people, they're not the ones that are gonna come and buy something from you anyway. The people that love you, they're the ones that are gonna come to you they're gonna come see your show, they're gonna buy your book, they're gonna, you know, want to work with you with hypnotherapy. People that like you, they'll like your posts and stuff, but they really could care less about what you're doing, really. So don't be afraid. And, you know, I try not to be too, you know, abrasive. In fact, I don't do political posts anymore, because it's just bad for business, really. You're alienating 50% of the people, and you're probably not convincing them anyway. Sorry, I got off topic there a little bit. So with analytical clients, and so that's what I was going to tell you a story, and I'm not going to tell you his name, but he's given me permission to tell the story. So I was at an NGH chapter meeting one time with a bunch of us were there, and this guy comes in and he's upset. You can tell he's upset. And we're going around introducing ourselves, and we talk to him, and he's not a hypnotist. He goes, "I was just on Meetup and I saw this and I thought I'm going to go check it out." And so he shows up, and apparently he'd gone to a hypnotherapist in town and paid some money. And then the person tried to take him. He's very high strung. He's got ADHD and he's very analytical. And they were doing like Karen was talking about, and now your toes are, you know, you're relaxing and your ankles are relaxing. And he's even as he's telling the story, his fists are doing like this. You know, he's like, you know, just getting angrier and angrier just talking about it. And he goes, "I couldn't stand her to tell me relax anymore." And so he finally just stopped it halfway and said, "This isn't working. I want my money back." And there was some problems and hassles. And she finally was like, "Here, take your money and leave." And I immediately could tell that was not the best way of working with him. And, you know, I mean, you never know for sure, but, you know, I offered to work with him. He was a veteran. And I said, "Let's just do some complimentary sessions for you, and I want to help you to get through this." And I basically just did some, I think the easiest one I did with him was the chalkboard induction, which I actually didn't know about until I listened to something from Dr. Will Horton. And it's where you draw a great big circle on a chalkboard and you start drawing letters of the alphabet, A, B, C. And because what this does is this gets their attention over here, because they need something to think about. You're not going to relax them into just letting go. Usually they need something to do to keep them busy, and then they'll drift into to hypnosis, hopefully. And it worked great with them. I've also done, I also did some rapid inductions. I did this one here backwards, and you go forward and backward and forward and back and sleep. You just yank it and sleep, and boom, out just like that. And then followed up and going deeper and deeper and deeper. So those can work as well. So that's an example of how irritated somebody who is not your ideal client for the people that are like ADHD or analytical, drive them nuts, really. So, if you have any questions, let me know. So I'll tell you the techniques. So I've just mentioned a couple of techniques. My favorite one, the one that I learned first, and I'm sure at least most of you have heard of Terrence Watts. He's a very well-known hypnotist. He's got a script called 7 ± 2. I think that's, yeah, 7 ± 2. And I actually just sent Karen the a couple of scripts for you guys. And this isn't to say that you should necessarily read those as scripts. You certainly can, but it's really about kind of getting the idea. And so with plus or minus 7 ± 2. And so here's the thing. He actually gave me permission. I wrote to him. I got permission to actually share the printed script, 7 ± 2. But he does say that I have to share his website, hypnosense.com. And so go check it out. He's got a bunch of freebies on there. So you're not going to miss out on anything if you don't. But here's the idea with 7 ± 2, is that you're giving them all these things to think about. And I'll do a little demo in just a second. We end at 6:30, is that right?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. We end at the top of the hour.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so we got some time. So anytime you want to interrupt, just raise a hand or something like that. I'll be happy to relinquish control. So what it's going to be like is they're sitting there, and now wouldn't it be interesting to think about, the temperature of the air in the room? And while you're thinking about the temperature of the air in the room, I wonder if you could think about one more thing. Could you think about, the way your body feels in that surface beneath you, on that surface beneath you? And you keep stacking. And he has specific examples in the one that I sent over to Karen, but it could be anything, as you're lying there, perhaps you become aware of the sound of my voice. And so what they're doing is we're adding all these things. And of course, we can't think about everything at once. We're kind of thinking about one thing and then another thing and another thing and another thing. They finally give up is the idea here, is they give up and they go into trance. So that's one of my favorites. And then the other one, and so I sent another one over, and I literally went into ChatGPT. Hopefully you guys are all using AI. You might as well use it. It's here. You can avoid it as long as you want to, but everybody else this is what I started my keynote with at the Michigan conference. You're not going to lose your job to AI, but you're going to lose your job to a hypnotist that's using AI. So you want to be aware of what's going on in the world. Confusion and overload. So I just went in and said, see if I can. I'm not great about sharing things on screen, so I'm just going to kind of tell you. Well, I think I can do it. Do I have sharing control?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes, share. Well, let me open it first. Let's see. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we see it?
Yeah. Yes.
Good. And so with this one, you're going to, but I'll tell you, one of the problems with this kind of thing, when it talks about like a winding staircase going down, I will always throw in for clients, and it's whatever, it's, whatever texture you like. It could be carpeted, it could be hardwood, whatever you like. I throw in all these things, so I don't have them going, but what's Jim want me to see here? What does he want me to feel? It's whatever you want. And they still have a little bit of problem with that oftentimes. And I'll tell you, I don't know, do you have this problem too, Karen, or any of the other analyticals? Whenever there's a staircase, and even when I do it myself, I'm like, wait, is the top floor now, is that the 10th stair? Or is that the top floor and the bottom one? Is that really considered the first? And as I start doing it, I'm like, oh man, is it? And I feel like I have to explain it, it's.
And what have we missed in the meantime? What did I miss while I was thinking about that? How do I catch up?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. Also, you'll get better at it, right? I mean, in fact, I'm to the point now where it doesn't matter what induction you're trying to use on me. I use the one that works best for me. And so I just check out and I start doing my own induction in my mind. And you can tell your clients that. I'll tell them, you know, like, because I'll do several different inductions over a course of treatments. And I'll just tell them, hey, whichever one works best for you, whether you're working with me or somebody else, just plug in the one that you like. And so you're at the top of the staircase, or it's at the bottom. The further you go, the more relaxed you become. So things like this, kind of getting their mind kind of overworked. What they really don't want is a lot of times is to have to try to fill in the details. They want you to give them the details, unless you give them permission to fill in the details. You know, then it's like, oh, okay, well, even when they tell me to go into the water at the beach, I'm like, nope, I do not. I've got some sandals on, so I don't get the sand in my toes, and I'm walking over to wherever I want to be, about 6 or 8 feet away from the water at all times. Because you know those land sharks, you got to watch out for those. And yes, I know I could use hypnosis to get over it, but I have a feeling like this is like a premonition or maybe a past life thing, and there was a shark involved, and I don't want to take any chances with that. So that's confusion. And then there's an overload induction. They're very similar, you know, confusion and overload. I'd like to take a break now for questions and examples from your own experiences. Yeah, we could.
Are there questions?
How about your own experiences working with analytical clients or people that you thought were kind of difficult? Because I'll tell you, as a client, I sometimes probably seem difficult. I'm not as much anymore because I've recognized it, but I can remember meeting with, well, different specialists, whether it's a psychologist or a doctor, whatever, and they ask me questions. I'm like, you know, 2 or 3 word answer. Okay, done. You know, and it's like they're dragging it out of me. And I realize now, oh, I was a pain in the ass.
I think there's a distinction between when we talk about analytical clients that typically, and Jim, at least this is how I sort of heard it from you, they're people that basically are analyzing everything that's going on. That's why we call them analytical clients. There are other clients, and yet it seems that some of the same techniques work, who maybe they're hesitant for whatever reason. They got shit going on, whatever it is, and they're not sure if they're safe or comfortable or anything. It seems to me like the right quality of rapport
Sure.
and can gain you the ability to do a whole lot with almost anybody, as long as so there are certain people that I might be a pretty analytical guy, but there's certain people that I would trust enough to go, okay, I'm just going to let go and you do your thing, and I will let it wash over me, and and that'll be great. So and other people, if I'm not quite comfortable or sure if they know what they're doing.
Sure, yeah.
Knowing that, of course, I know so much better, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm going to be checking for the whole thing.
You make a great point, Michael, and I'll tell you, like, analytical clients, what'll happen is oftentimes, like you said, that trust part, they're not likely to trust you as much as the people that just, so once you get 2 or 3 sessions in, a lot of times it's going to be better. Now, I used to, and I don't do this anymore, I'll tell you, I used to, because I like to be honest with people. If I don't think I can help them, or if I think it's going to be tough for them to benefit from the hypnosis, I'm straight up with them. I'll be like, you don't seem that committed, so why don't you give this some thought and come back in 3 or 6 months. If you really want to move forward, I got some names for you. I'll refer you to somebody else, but I don't really want to work with you. Their money is not worth the bad review, is my opinion. So I've got like stellar reviews. I don't want to take a chance on getting some crappy review because I took somebody that I shouldn't have. But there's also the ethics. I don't want to take their money. Mostly I don't want to take their money if I don't think I can help them. But I used to tell clients like that were analytical, I'd say, it's probably going to take you longer to get the kind of results that a non-analytical would get. Well, wasn't that terrible?
A powerful suggestion?
Isn't it? Yeah, exactly. And I the last time I did that, it was an accountant, and she was very direct. And that's the other thing. They usually be very direct. And they're also the only ones that'll ever ask about your certifications, your training. So if they ask about that, I've been doing this for 15 years now, and I've only had like 3 people ask, and they're all analyticals. But she's the one that like within like 2 or 3 days, she sent me this, said it's working remarkably, and you're my top 3, things that I'm grateful for every day. I was like, I got to stop telling people that then. And I just tell them, we've got some different strategies to help you, because also a lot of times analytical clients, if they come to you, a lot of times they'll try hypnosis. It doesn't work for them because they don't get the right style, the right treatment. They don't get the right message. And so they'll never do it again. But if they do come to you, you got to tell them, look, I ask them what their induction was like. Ask them what the experience was like. And if they tell you, well, I didn't really connect, or the person, they had the crystals everywhere and I wasn't really into that, or maybe it was opposite, they were really uptight or something, whatever. Or, we just did the one session and it didn't really work. So I quit. And I just tell them, look, for most of my clients, it's going to take a few sessions. We can't expect to unwind all this stuff in one session for a lot of things. So it's going to take some time, and let them be aware. So I just want to be very open with them, but with all clients, that, it's not a miracle cure. We're going to do our best. It's a practice, just like dentistry, doctoring, we're going to try this, and then we're going to try this, and we're going to do this. So that's my thought on that. Yeah.
It's interesting because it occurs to me too. I'm an Ericksonian, and that really I am so steeped in that it occurs to me that I'm hearing Milton's voice in my head, working with an analytical client and saying, and I want you to analyze this very carefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just supporting and encouraging it, and maybe embedding some suggestions and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. But or the separation of conscious and unconscious mind. Your conscious mind can analyze everything that I say to you, while your unconscious mind can have a different experience on another level. And you can be curious about what that means, and your inner mind can use these suggestions, these ideas, that kind of thing is a nice trick.
I like that. That's nice. Yeah.
It is.
I love
It is.
analyze this. Ooh, yeah. I'd love to. Tell me what I got to analyze.
Analyze this.
I think Michael and I both are of the same take on this, that we don't necessarily need to get the conscious mind or the analytical part out of the way, or hide stuff from them. Why not let it play along?
Perfect.
Why not let it come along for the ride and play the same game? And Jim, I take a slightly different tack with that, I think, than you do.
Yeah.
My difference is that if the person is that analytical and they're going to be analyzing everything, I don't have them close their eyes. I don't hypnotize them at all. I said, I'm going to do something really different. And because they believe that this is necessary, that's the last 5 minutes of the session. All the change happens in conversation when we're wide awake and their eyes are open and they are completely hypnotized without having any idea that they're in hypnosis, or that they've gone into a trance, or that they've had a belief change. Once they've had their belief change, they've told me everything I need to know about that. Then at the end, we go, oh, let's do that hypnosis that you came in for. And then they get a little taste of the hypnosis and they walk out. The analytical ones walk out knowing that they couldn't have made that change on their own, that they couldn't have made it in conversation because that would have happened with their therapist. So it was that hypnosis that did it. But the change was made while they were wide awake and participating.
I'm not as experienced in that, and it's something I definitely want to learn, the eyes open hypnosis. I love that. That's awesome.
And then they get the best of both worlds, and we get the change. They get analyzed all along the way, and everything they analyze, they're giving me information. Yay! Thanks for the input. Exactly what.
Yeah. Good.
So I think that what you're talking about is what most hypnotists, especially new young hypnotists, are doing. They're spending the bulk of that time in hypnosis, because there is that belief that the eyes have to be closed and one has to be relaxed to be hypnotized. I don't share that belief. I know that somebody sitting next to me on an airplane who's hugging the chair and they're white knuckling it, they are not relaxed. And to break that state, is not going to take a progressive muscle relaxation or a story or anything else. We need to break that state instantly. So we break that state, and then they can kind of relax. Anyway, you asked for that input, so that's why I gave that input.
No, I every time I speak, I learn something. Every time I talk, every time I teach a class, I learn something. I got to tell you too, and I'm such a believer in that eyes open conversational style hypnosis. So I'll tell you, I had this kind of idea about it, that it was mostly just creepy guys trying to pick up girls. And so I was like, I have a personality. I don't need to do that.
It works
so I
that way
kinda-
too. But it works that way.
Right,
Hypnosis is
yeah.
not just for the good witches. Hypnosis is for
Exactly, yeah.
everybody. Suggestions are just suggestions.
But so I kind of was like, I don't want to deal with that. And so I have a podcast called Hypnosis Hero, and I had a guy on, Bob Martin. And so if you know me, if you follow me on social media, you'll know I hate pineapple pizza, and I make a big deal about it. This is one of the great things you can do in your marketing is go ahead.
His wife is the wiser one in the family, by the way. I want to input. She loves.
Yeah,
Sorry, Jim.
she loves the pineapple pizza. Yeah. But if you want to make a stand, don't make a political stand. Make a stand about something you like food, because so Karen may like pineapple on pizza. She's probably not going to hate me because I don't, right? But if I say I love Trump, she may go, ooh, yuck. Or if I love Biden, ooh, yuck. But if you want to, I mean, and I didn't intend this. This was not my plan, but I get so much attention from this little thing, from this pineapple pizza. That, I mean, I'll get memes all the time posted on my wall, be the same ones, people, new ones come up. But so I'm top of mind. Anytime somebody has pineapple pizza, they think of Jim. I don't know how to exactly work that into making money off of it yet, but I'm working on it. But the whole point is I had Bob Martin on, and he does a conversational stuff. And I got to tell you, he was like, well, so we do an interview and then we do hypnosis. And then he was like, well, what do we want to work on today? And somebody in the audience said, Jim hates pineapple pizza. And Bob kind of laughs, or we all laugh. And Bob just starts talking. And Bob's talking, and I'm going, yeah. And I got to tell you, about 20 minutes in, I go, stop right there, because I had pizza in one hand, which I like. I had pineapple in the other hand, which I like. I was on a beach in Hawaii, and they were coming together. And I was like, no, stop right there. And I was shocked. I really was, because I had no idea where this was coming from. And I was starting to go, that doesn't sound so bad, So my thought was, if I really wanted to like pineapple pizza, I would have been right there. I would have been, yeah, let's have them come together and let's eat it. So I'm a huge believer in that, Karen. You do not have to have the person's eyes do not have to be closed. You don't have to do a formal induction. Amazing.
We're being hypnotized by television commercials every day.
True.
But
yeah.
you also said something very important, that if you had wanted
Right.
like pineapple pizza, that technique would have worked perfectly for you. But even though you were enthralled, you put up a stop sign because you saw what was going.
Yeah.
Hold it. I don't want to like this. This is my claim to fame. The same exact thing happened to Howie
Mandel.
Howie Mandel on America's Got Talent or whatever. Some hypnotist came on and hypnotized him to get over his phobia. Honestly, in my opinion, he didn't get over anything, but he was playing along for the good of the show at the time, and then got really pissed afterwards because it looked like he didn't have his phobia anymore, and that's his claim to fame. You're not going to force somebody, I don't care how great a hypnotist you are, you're not going to force somebody to get over something that is their claim to fame. Why would they give
part? That was the other part. I mean, that is kind of part of my brand, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Again, don't have accountants lose the numbers, even if you're dedicated to the element induction. Have them lose the alphabet. But of course, you're going to get resistance if you ask them to lose the numbers. That's their livelihood.
That's so funny, Karen. I actually was doing street hypnosis with somebody. He was fantastic. He did every single thing. And then I told him to forget the number 2 3 times. He said the number 2. And afterwards I was like, so what happened there? You were everything was going along. And he goes, I'm an accountant. I can't lose numbers. I'm out of a job. Yep. True.
Just because a person is in a deep trance, they could be in the deepest level of hypnosis, they still are living, thinking, breathing human beings. They still hold on to their personality. We aren't really doing stuff to them.
Yeah, you can tell them they can lose it temporarily. I've done that, and then it's fine. You'll get them back soon. But the other thing too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know you're a great stage hypnotist, Jim. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
don't know if you do this or not, but lots of stage hypnotists use some amnesia at the end. You
Yeah.
send somebody back to the table and you won't remember your name until I say hypnosis or clap 3 times or something like that. Have you ever done anything like that? Or you understand, you know the concept I'm talking
I do,
about.
yes, I do. And I've done different versions of it. Typically now what I do is I say, you'll remember everything you want to remember, you'll forget everything you want to forget. But you will remember that you had a great time, and every time you think of my name, you'll smile. So I leave them with that.
I think it's a great way to do it. I think the risk a stage hypnotist runs when they ask for somebody to forget their name, which they may well do, if somebody in the middle of that routine comes in and says, I've got $1 million lottery winner here, it goes to Dennis Hoofnagel, he just got his name back.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
The leverage just changed.
Yeah.
He got his name back, right? Whether you said hypnosis or clap twice or whatever.
Totally. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things for us to consider as hypnotists. We are not doing something to another person or making them think something. We are enabling them to open up their options and think of it a different way.
So true.
My night was just made, and I'll tell you why. I'll share this with all of you. I'm sorry that you can't see the gallery because I just said that and I saw Michael Watson give me that smile, that mentor smile of, I'm proud of what she just said. Michael, you just made my night. I hope I read that correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking
All
that
right,
this is the Dennis Hoofnagel, by the way, Dennis had to leave us. He said he sent me a note. He had a meeting. But the hidden observer, the Helgard hidden observer thing that I hope most of you are familiar with and have been taught about in classes, you know, that's the perfect example of that, is that it isn't those things are not heard or not understood or anything. They're simply processed in a different way. And push comes to shove, and Dennis Hoofnagel just won $5 million. He will know his name, you know, and you know, and it's why if a hypnotist is like, to stop myself from saying the word. If hypnotist is messing with you in a way that's inappropriate, according to Helgard, at least, the unconscious mind, the hidden observer, is going to bring you to alertness and awareness, and it's one of the things that we have to offer our clients in terms of assuring them of their safety with what it is that we're doing.
well, and doesn't that make perfect sense after all? Because all of the levels of the mind, you know, I love Shelley Stockwell Nicholas, who says, we don't know what the mind is. We don't have any idea what the mind is. We don't really, but we still have metaphors to explain it, right? And as we're using these metaphors to explain it, some people say the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of it is, you know, underneath the surface, or however you might want to use it. It doesn't matter what part of the mind we're talking about, the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, the superconscious, the other than conscious. All of those levels of the mind are designed to protect us. Conscious logic and reason is designed to protect us. The subconscious memory card is designed to protect us so we don't have to reinvent ourselves every single day when we wake up. All of those levels are there to protect us, and they're all working to our advantage. And sometimes we download behaviors for the best possible reason, and then 30 years later, that reason changes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was just going to say, I mean, the obvious one that we probably all know of is the, you know, victims of child abuse, you know, sexual abuse oftentimes gain a lot of weight to protect themselves. And, you know, one of the things that, so it's one of the things that I remember telling that it just occurred to me, you know, when you're working with clients and you become like the most brilliant philosopher in the world, and you have those things, you go, holy crap, I'm a genius. I got to write that one down. You know, it's cool how that comes out sometimes. And I said, you know, stronger is safer. And that became her mantra. And that helped her to take the weight off because she had been shielding, she'd been holding that on for safety. And so if you can just find that right thing for them or help them to find it, man, you can have just a different result so quickly.
So how do you talk to an analytical, you've got somebody in, you've got your plan, they're there. You may send them away, I don't know, but how do you talk to them to kind of turn them around?
I ask them what their experience is with hypnosis. If they've had a hypnosis, what they've done. And a lot of times I find that they've done a fair amount of research. I'm always surprised when we get clients in that have no idea about hypnosis. Like, I don't know. What do you know about hypnosis? Nothing really. My friend used it or something. Oh, okay. But they've usually done a lot of research, and so I try to talk to them so I'll go into more detail than I would normally, because a lot of people that are non-analytical, you don't really need to give them a lot. But I'll kind of check in with them. I actually tell them. In fact, I remember it was that the accountant woman that I was talking about, when I was like, I caught myself I was like the consultation, I was like 30 minutes in, and I was just kind of just telling her all these different facts. And I go, oh my God, I feel like I'm talking too much. I'm telling you too much. And she goes, oh, no, keep telling me, keep talking. I like this. I want more facts. So I try to give them, in a subtle way, I will talk about past success, and I will talk about the research, and of course it's you assume that they know, right? And so I know, Mr. Johnson, that, obviously you've looked at the research and you've seen that there's been, you could Google right now and find 50,000 studies easily with, studies from like, Stanford and Harvard and those kind of things. And I'll talk in very tangible terms like that. How do you do it?
Sometimes I lie or make stuff up.
Okay, cool. Give me some hints. I've got a pen ready. Tell me what I need to write down.
Let me explain. A guy once said he wanted exercise motivation, and I said, well, give me your definition of exercise. And he said, well, God, you got to work out for a whole hour, you got to sweat, you got to really do it. And I said, oh my God, I would hate exercise too. So maybe you haven't heard the latest research. The latest research shows short bouts of exercise work just as well as long extended periods of time, and you can do it without even sweating. Would that work for you? Well, God, yeah, if I could do that. I honestly, I believe that's real research, but I don't know where to find it. And it wouldn't matter to me anyway, because all I was doing was moving him out of hopelessness into possibility.
Yeah.
Right. I have a cardiologist that I love. I love him mostly because he's from Argentina. And in Argentina, you have to learn hypnosis in medical school. So I am really simpatico with this doctor, and he's really brilliant. Every time I see him, he tells me to exercise more. So one time he gave me a whole handout on a recumbent bike that I should go get. And it looked fun. It looked great. It looked easy. I went to look at the recumbent bike, and it would take up way too much real estate in my home. I'm not getting the recumbent bike. So the next time I said, it's just too big. And so he said, here's a walking place thing. You can do it, put it under your desk. And I went to look at it. Still too big for my arrangement. So I saw him again. I saw him earlier today, by the way, and he said, what'd you think about that walking pad? I said, still don't have room for it. And he said, there is a machine, it's like an elliptical. And he said, you just put it under your desk, or you put it where you're watching television, and you don't even have to do it. It's electric. It does it for you. I said, you've got a machine that will exercise for me, and all I have to do is sit in the chair and it works. He said, it really works, and it's great for people your age. And I've got one ordered already.
All right. Awesome.
Because he finally came down to something I could buy into. Right. Yeah. And I think that's that's what I do with my clients. I find something that they can buy into, and we build on that.
I'm disappointed that it won't be great for me for several years yet then.
Well, and I saw the look on Jim's face. God, you can't tell a woman that. I can say that to my cardiologist. My cardiologist and I are on very good terms.
Good deal.
So yes, that's, a negotiation. I like to think that when I'm working, especially with analytical clients, I learned my best lessons in high school debate.
Nice.
Are there any other questions?
I was just going to ask that one.
Oh, well, I beat you to the punch.
By the way, just curiously, I was just thinking in the background, like I can't help doing because I have an analytical mind. And one of the things too that I keep hearing Erickson only because that came up earlier. And another one of my favorite things to say to clients, and it's great for analyticals because it just drives them crazy. But if you can get any quality of response at all going on, somewhere you might just mention, and your unconscious mind has just made a very important decision.
Oh no.
Only you don't know what it
Oh no.
and it might be this, and it might be, and then you can just kind of go crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Erickson stories is when he was working with a couple, and this older couple, the guy had just retired, and now he wanted to travel. He wanted to travel the world. And his wife was quite happy being at home. She didn't really want to travel. So they went to see Erickson to try to come to some compromise. And she sat there rigidly the whole time. She was having no part of it whatsoever. And Erickson noticed that, and he said, "You know what? This isn't being very helpful in this particular setting. So I'm going to ask you to step out while we continue our work together. And before you go, I just want you to notice that when you go out that door, at some point, I don't know if it's immediately or on down the road, but at some point, there will be a flash of brilliance or flash of purple. I don't remember exactly. Do you remember, Michael, what the story that I'm telling?
No,
There will be a flash of brilliance in your life. And then you will have all of the answers you need." So she walked out the door looking for the flash of brilliance. He finished the work with the husband. And then the husband went out, and she was sitting there, and she said there was no flash of brilliance. But they walked out of the office, and she looked for the flash of brilliance. And in the car ride on the way home, she said there was no flash of brilliance. They got home, and she looked around, there was no flash of brilliance. Later on in the week, she said to her husband, "If we go across town, I wonder if that flash of brilliance will be across town." And he said, "Well, I'll be happy to take you." And he took her across town. There was no flash of brilliance. And then the next day she said, "Well, I wonder if it would be up on the mountains up there." And he said, "Well, I'm happy to take you." And they went up to the mountains. There was no flash of brilliance, but they did travel the world as she looked for her fucking flash of brilliance.
Nice.
Problem solved.
Lovely story.
Great story. Great story.
So I'm sorry that I used the F word.
Oh,
I just channeled Melissa Tears for a moment.
we're going to go through the video, and I'm going to put a honk over it.
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll go back through it a lot because I think I used a few more. I'm very familiar with the group. What can I tell you?
All right. Well, we're down to the last 5 minutes here, so I just want to make sure, what is special having Jim here as our guest tonight. So here's your chance, everybody. If you've got some question, particularly about analytical clients, but I suppose that Jim would probably answer anything that you might like to ask him before we wrap it up.
Jen. Jen
Hello.
Pett.
Sorry, I was late. Got my time wrong. Hello, Jim.
Hello.
So, how about clients that come in with all the paperwork? So this is probably my one that always sticks in my head. She had fibromyalgia, and unfortunately, it wasn't until later that she gave me all the paperwork and all the studies, and she's like, "Oh, you got to turn the fan off and the light off," and so she was obviously she had this for many years, and anyway, so she was maybe my most analytical. Is that in the same territory, or what do you think?
Is there anybody in here? And I mean, obviously you don't have to admit if you don't want to, but anybody that would admit that they have fibromyalgia? I don't work with people with fibromyalgia anymore. I did massage therapy for a long time, and I hate to be judgmental, but it's a certain type of person is what I found in my experience. And I just find them very difficult. And so I don't want to take the extra time. First, I would refer them to somebody. But if they come in with all that stuff, I mean, if it's helpful, I would guess they're probably fairly analytical. Yeah. I just, man, I hate to say triggered and reported, but really for me, like I said, having done massage therapy for 20 years, boy, they were just really challenging to work with those folks. And God bless them. They need help too. I'd just rather somebody else do that.
I did refer her on to somebody who had lots of all different things to work with her on. I worked with her, but so let's just take that fibromyalgia out and just say somebody comes in and they've got all the paperwork. They've got all the things that, you know, here I've got this.
I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. I mean, you know, they put weight, you know, they followed the directions perfectly. Yeah. I mean, the more they do that, the more analytical they are. Yeah. Although you could have a people pleaser, non-analytical as well. I'll actually ask them a lot of times. I'll just go, so on a scale of 1 to 10 with 1 being, you know, not very analytical at all, and 10 being very, very analytical, where would you think you're at? I'm nearly always right, you know, always right on what I've guessed, but you can just ask them, they'll know.
And yeah, I think that would be a good indication, Jen, too, that they are probably, because they're carrying all of that stuff, all of the details means something to them. It could be an indication of that. Yeah. Julianne, did you have a question?
Hi, yes, I did actually. We talked a little bit about regression therapy and the analytical mind and so forth, and that I found that to be a little cumbersome, trying to get into the state of mind that you want to be in to do a regression therapy, you know. So any other suggestions on that?
I'll defer to Michael and Karen on that, because
Let me call BS on that belief. Let me ask you this, Julianne. Do you own a car?
Yes.
Is this your first car?
No.
Tell me about your first car.
Okay. I know where you're going. All right. Then I got it.
Tell me about your first car. And as soon as you start telling me about your car, I'll ask another question about that car, and another question. We get deeper and deeper and deeper. And when you first think of that first car, you may not necessarily think how many seats it's got. But as I ask you about that, you get deeper. And you go deeper into that trance, and you never once closed your eyes or knew we were doing any kind of hypnosis, because I was just asking you a question. And it's kind of reverse fractionation, because I ask you a question, you go inside to give me the answer, and you come back out to tell me the answer. I ask another question, you go inside to get the answer and come back out. So we've got fractionation going. We've all got all of the important things going with the trance, and your eyes are wide open and you have no idea it's happening. So there's no resistance.
And that car is moving.
I'm sorry?
And that car is moving.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Well, Shar and Bigara, we've come to the end of yet another thrilling and exciting episode of Nick Danger, Third Eye. Oh, and the virtual chapter of hypnosis. Jim, it's been lovely having you with us tonight. And we want to make sure I see Jim Kellner, Facebook.com. Is there any other way? Do you want to give us an email address or anything for people to connect with you if they would like?
Yeah, sure. And so yeah, please find me on Facebook. I love to connect on Facebook. I'll give you my email address. If you will just shoot me an email and mention this group. I have I don't know if there's any newbies in here or people that want to improve their business, but I have a course called Launch Now. It's yours free. Just tell me that you saw it here. It's like 6 modules, takes you from mindset through business licenses and all the stuff that you don't really think about. And then also how to create products and all that stuff. So I'll give that to you for free. Give me a couple weeks though, because I haven't quite converted it over to an online. Oh, that's the wrong email address.
And for those people on the recording, by the way, that's jim@jimkellner.com. JIMKELLN as in Nancy ER, jimkellner.com.
Yeah. So if you email me, give me a couple weeks to get it, because it was a live class. I have to convert it over to an online course now. So just give me a couple weeks and I'll get that out to you, and hopefully you can get some benefit out of that. And then if you want to just, yeah, that's good. I think that's perfect. I'm going to send over Michael and Karen the YouTube. I made so here's what you can do too. If you make YouTube videos, I did one for analytical clients, and I got several people thanking me for that, because nobody else is doing that. They're all doing PMR. So that's something for them. So they appreciate that. And then I'll also send you over the one with Bob Martin, who's doing that witchcraft like Karen was showing us with the words, and almost made me like pineapple pizza. Ugh.
Okay. And Jim mentioned earlier some handouts, and I think Karen, you have sent them on to me. So we will post the replay, as you all know, tomorrow on the virtual chapter, and I will attach the handouts to that. It's the best way that we have really to get them to you and to other people who are also going to see this going on. So for those of you who are here, check into the virtual chapter, and they will be there for you as well.
We will
So
see you next time next month, and next month we'll have Nathan Gist as our guest.
we will indeed. And in the meantime, Jim, we are going to treat you now with a baptism of applause and love and affection. If you will just sit back and relax, don't analyze too deeply, and everybody open up your microphones and let Jim know how much we appreciate having him here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Jim. Thank you.
Have a good
All right.
night.
Everybody.
Thank
So-
you.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Tomorrow night, presenter series. Come and see us if you can, and then a month from now. Bye.
Bye.